So, in this very first podcast that I'm doing on this platform, I'm going to discuss Partworks. Basically, it's going to be an introduction this episode into my Partwork history, basically. And we'll come on to all of that in just a minute. First, I want to talk about the platform that I'm using. So, I'm using something called Anchor. It's a free app that anyone can download. The good thing about Anchor is that you can make a podcast, and when you publish said podcast, it will publish it to everywhere that anyone can get the podcasts from. So Apple Podcasts or basically anywhere you can get a podcast from, it'll post it to there, all free. So also good things about Anchor is that you don't have to have the app, but I can ask you onto one of the podcast episodes. So if you would like to appear, well, I say appear, but to talk about on the podcast, then all you can do is simply just send us a message here through Anchor, or leave a message on the YouTube channel, this is also going to be posted on as well. You can also, if you have the Anchor app, so like I said, you can go into any app store on your device, put in Anchor, you can find all your podcasts in there, plus you can make your own podcasts, and by doing that you can also send messages through there, a bit like voicemails, and I'll be able to play them on the show, so that's really cool. So I want you to get involved. I want anyone listening to this to send the message. If you want to if you want to appear on the show and you want to tell your story, then I am all up for that. So just make sure you leave a comment either on this podcast or on YouTube. You can do that. That's fantastic. I'd love you to come here. Like I said, you don't have to have the Anchor app for me to have you on the show. It works very similar to sort of WhatsApp. Like a phone call, basically. That's all it sort of acts like. So I've got that out of the way. So obviously in this first one, I want to discuss my history and how I got into Partworks and what Partworks are if you've never heard of them. I've looked around on so many different podcasts and stuff like that, apart from YouTube, and amazingly, I haven't found one on Partworks, so I thought I would start my own one, and it might be the very first one. I don't know. Like I said, I've searched and I've really searched to try and find one, and I just can't. I'm hoping someone out there knows of one, because I genuinely don't know if there's one there or not. Like I said, I've searched around. I can't find one. Maybe because it needs to be more visual, but I think podcasts can also do that without actually showing you anything, if you know what I mean. So we got rid of that. We know what platform I'm on now. We know if you want to send a message, you can. I can play it on the show next time and stuff like that. And if you want to join me, I'm going to do a sort of a Partwork podcast every once a month. But I plan on doing more podcasts and other stuff as well. So that'd be cool if you could follow me. That'd be brilliant. So getting on to how I got into Partworks. Okay, so we're going back now. We're going back to, I think it's 2009. Yeah, all the way back then. 2009 was when I done my very, very first Partwork. And just before I get into that, I want to, just in case you don't know what a Partwork is a model or something that you collect over over weeks or months, and at the end of it, you end up with something like a car or a boat or something like that. So it's a model kit that you collect over weekly periods instead of all at once. It's called a part work because it's a work in parts as you get it. that is what it is. So if you don't know what I want, you've seen them in the shops, you've seen the adverts on the TV, or even on Facebook or YouTube or somewhere like that, where you're making, say, the DeLorean or the Dodge Charger or something like that, or the GT 500, or even the Titanic, or a plane. But it can be anything, as long as you collect it each week. Even the Star Trek starships, models, anything that comes out weekly or every 2 weeks, and you collect, and it's part of a collection, that is the Partwork, regardless if it makes a model or whether you're collecting models. And so effectively that's what a Partwork is. So let's go back. 2009 was my first sort of flutter into Partworks. I can't remember that. It's such a long time ago. It was, I think it was the McLaren MP4 that D'Agostini put out, and that was my first one. I remember seeing it in the shop. The magazine was sort of elongated. It wasn't a normal A4 size magazine. It was quite of a long one and really thick, and you get it every week, and I think the price was something like $5.99 a week, which was good. And it came with screws, and it was plastic and die cast, and it was 1/8 scale, and it was huge, and I'd never seen anything like this before. And I remember, being back then, being a very hardcore F1 fan. It was something that I was interested in, so I was sort of drawn to it. But yeah, so I built this over 2 years, 100 issues. And it worked out really well. And then when we moved house, I sold it. I wish I didn't. I wish I still had it, but I sold it just because I thought it was going to get damaged. It was big. I weighed up some of the stuff, so in the end I sold it. I didn't get what I paid out for it, and that is something you get with Partworks. With all Partworks, they never make what you pay in. Okay, so I've seen lots of people trying to make money from Partworks and stuff like that. You just can't do that. It just doesn't work. If you think that you're going to make money by building these, no. Even years down the line, you won't, because they seem to reissue them. Or you can generally pick them up. There are some exceptions to this. Some very old Partworks. I think one of them was the Lancia Delta. I think they brought out a couple of years ago now, way before I started doing it, and they've never re-released it. And in doing so, it's pushed the price up. But nowadays, a lot of the models are still available to buy that were brought out 4 or 5 years ago, which means the market value for them isn't very big, because you can still buy them. And a lot of companies are seeing that they're leaving it up to you for when you want to build them, instead of having it over a time period sort of thing, which is kind of good, I suppose. So yeah, so in 2009, during 2009, I obviously done that one. I did some kids ones as well. I've got 2 daughters, so we did Partworks for them as well. So one was How My Body Works, where you built Billy Bones, and then you built all his internal organs, and then you built the skin to go over that, and then there was some diagram stuff as well, so how like the lungs work, how the digestive system works and stuff like that. And that was really, really good. Educational as well, really. Another one, which I think it was Eagle Moss. I may be wrong. It might be Hachette, which was the insect collection, where you collected little insects within plastic, and it obviously teaches you about each bug and stuff like that. We did that for the girls as well. We also did my 3D globe, which it's surprising. So the How My Body Works, they've released that at least 4 times, and the insect one, I know they've released that at least 2 times. But my 3D globe, they've never re-released again. They've never released it. And this globe is huge. I mean, it's ridiculously oversized. Let's just put it that way. So big. And over the years, bits have come off these things and have been lost, and we've got rid of How My Body Works now because bits came off it. I donated it to a secondary school who quite happily took it from me. And we also had my 3D globe. When we moved, we moved from a sort of a bigger house to a slightly smaller one, and we didn't really have the place to put this thing. I mean, it was huge. I mean, it had sections that had come out. It had a big hole in it where you could actually take out and see the layers of the core and the core in between. I mean, this thing was huge, right? So anyway, and the girls didn't really use it. It was one of those things that we did and built, and the girls used it and they liked it and stuff like that. But we got our use out of it, and when we moved it just became too big to put anywhere. So we donated that to a local primary school, who happily took it with all the magazines as well. So I was quite happy to do that sort of thing. As far as I'm aware, they still have that globe, but this thing was huge. But I'm quite surprised they've never re-released it. Yeah. So then, after I'd done the McLaren MP4, the next build that drew my eye, because I'm a massive Trek fan. Love my Star Wars, love my Marvel, DC, and all that sort of stuff. My next sort of flutter into Partworks was obviously the Star Trek Starship collection, which after 180 issues plus specials and everything else is come to an end, and I've got these ships everywhere, and I remember my wife saying, "Are these ever going to end? Are these ever going to end?" And I was like, at some point, yeah. They just kept extending it. But anyway, I collected that. The next Partwork build that I did was the Millennium Falcon. And I was playing with the idea while building this to do a YouTube channel. So I was sort of umming and ahhing over it, and I did a few videos which I posted to my personal Facebook page, and it was sort of to build up my sort of confidence really on doing this and building the Millennium Falcon. Now my wife's a very we love cars, me and my wife. We love tune up cars and stuff like that, and the American muscle cars we like, but there's certain ones that we like. We're not just gonna like every car, We like the Subaru Impreza, but we don't like, Nissan Corsas or some. Corsas and not Nissan Corsas. What am I talking about? Vauxhall Corsas. Of course, I know that. Those sort of cars. But anyway, while I was building Millennium Falcon, another build come out, which was by D'Agostini as well, which was the GT500, the Ford Mustang GT500. And my wife said, "I would love that," and I said, "Well, we'll build it." So I was building my Millennium Falcon. My wife was building the Ford Mustang. And then I remember when the Millennium Falcon finished, I then started on the R2-D2, and that was when I decided to set up my YouTube channel and take that onto YouTube, basically. And if you look on my YouTube channel, it's very bad. It's very, very bad. I was using what was I using at the time? I think I was using my iPhone at the time, and I didn't really have anywhere to stand it. And I bought this stand, and I didn't really have the light, and I was doing it on my desk. It's so raw and grimy to what I do now. But that's how you start out on doing these things. So yeah, I've done the R2-D2. I also done the Back to the Future DeLorean. Yeah, we'll cover the DeLorean in another episode, because I believe it needs a whole episode on its own. In fact, that's what I plan on doing. I plan on doing one of these podcasts on a particular build, even one maybe I've not done, so it would be nice for someone to come on the show to discuss it, who has built it. That would be really good. But yeah, I've done that. I've done the Route Master. I'm currently building the Terminator Ecto 1. I've just started the Iron Man and the Dodge Charger. But yeah, that's where I'm sort of at with the Partworks side of stuff. But yeah, I've been doing Partworks since 2009, so I don't consider myself an expert, but sort of following these companies and discussing it with people, and discussing it with people who actually work in these companies as well, I know a lot of background information, and I know how these things start, and and everything else. But yeah, so I have been doing these builds for a long time now. I know they've done builds before 2009. I've just been doing them up to 2009. But I know there were other ones. I think there was a Flying Scotsman, the Mallard, the Titanic. They done loads of these builds, and the quality of these builds have gotten better and better and better. So years ago, when you did things like the Titanic, I think it was like made from wood and things like that, and I think they've done the Black Pearl as well at one point, which was made of wood. Now they don't use those sort of techniques. Like I remember with the MP4, with the McLaren, it had decals on there, water slide decals to put on, and yeah, but that is my first flutter into Partworks, which are effectively models. So if you want to hear about me going further, sort of in like to modelling, then you have to go back to when I was 11. So we're talking about 1995. Oh yes, back to then. When I first started building models. So obviously I was a massive Trekkie. So obviously my first model sets were Star Trek. I believe the first model I ever got was the Enterprise D, and I remember building it, painting it, and hanging it from my ceiling with joy. I also had a Klingon Bird of Prey, because I think that's like the thing, isn't it? So you have like the Enterprise D and a Klingon Bird of Prey. It's just the way it goes. Even Eagle Moss, within the first 3 issues of the Star Trek Starship collection, did the Enterprise D and a Klingon Warbird as well. Klingon Bird of Prey. So it's a sort of a thing, but I remember doing that. I remember doing the a Galore class Cardassian warship. What else did I do? I'm trying to think now. I had the Excelsior. I had loads. I remember having the Voyager ones, that's for sure. So I remember having Voyager, the Marquis ship, and the Cardassian ship, and the Kazon ship. Sorry, not Cardassian, Kazon ship. It was like on a plaque thing, but I remember hanging them from my ceiling and painting them. And at this time, my brother was doing 40k, Warhammer 40k, which I thought was just like the best thing ever. I know it was sort of like an evolution of Dungeons and Dragons, but a lot better. And I remember painting lots of things like that, like Blood Angels and stuff like that. That was my main army I had in that, so Blood Angels. So I did a lot of painting and building of scenery and stuff like that. I went to big tournaments as well with my brother. up in Nottingham. And yeah, so I painted lots of them. I went in for 40k, but then they did have one which they don't do anymore, which is really it's really shame that they don't do anymore, which was based on the 40k ships. So you'd have your little figures, but they did a version where it was like an outer space sort of battle, and you built like the 40k ships and the other alien ships as well and stuff like that, and you could have a little bit of a battle. And I loved that, and I did that. And then so, you know, you might say, well, what happened? Well, 99, I left school and I went to college, and girls started showing up. So things like that took a back burner, I'm afraid. And yeah, so I spent a long time in the background. And you know, I always knew it was there, and I had a little tiny game here and there, but it was mainly like when girls come along, when you're that age, you know, 16, 17, it just goes on a back burner. You couldn't care less about anything other than that, and that's exactly what I did. You know, I became you know, a lad. I was going to the pub and stuff like that when I was 17, going out to clubs and doing all that sort of stuff that you do when you're young. But yeah, I know that Partworks were around, but nothing really took my fancy. And that's another thing I want to say about Partworks, because I get a lot of people on YouTube saying to me, oh, you should be doing this, you know, you should be doing the Bismarck, you should be doing the Spitfire. I always follow some very guidance words. Now, so, you know, I work for Rommel, you know, I'm earning okay money. I could build all these builds. Yeah, I could. But it comes down to space. Okay, so I live in a 3-bedroom house. I've got my wife, my 2 daughters, and my 2 dogs. And we live in a house, so I have to sort of prioritise what I get, because it always comes down to space. There's no point in building these builds and then going, where am I going to put it? You have to think, well, where am I going to put it once I built this thing? That is some of the bigger problems that I think the community faces, as they go, oh yeah, I want this, I want to get it. Then once it's built, I see a lot of people selling them saying, I don't have the space for this. And so I always look at that first. Then one is the interest. So does it interest you? You know, a build has to, for me, it has to interest me enough for me to get it. So yeah, I like my war documentaries, and I like the study of World War II and stuff like that. And, you know, I've seen all the documentaries on the Spitfire and the Bismarck and stuff like that. But it doesn't interest me enough to get it. There's not a claw there. Now, obviously, you know, listening to this and stuff like that, you'll realise that I'm a geek, right? I'm a massive nerd. Yeah. So if someone said to me, "You've got the Millennium Falcon," or "You've got the Spitfire," it's going to be the Millennium Falcon every time. You know, I built the Millennium Falcon, and some people go, "Why didn't you build the X-wing?" One, because I don't believe it was in scale yet with the Millennium Falcon, which is, let's just get this right, it's a studio scale version, and so is the X-wing. And then it once again comes down to space. Now, my Millennium Falcon is actually at my brother's house because there's just nowhere to put it, and I didn't want to sell it, so it now presides at my brother's house. But yeah, so yeah, it doesn't. There was, you know, if you put the X-wing and the Millennium Falcon, I'm going to pick the Millennium Falcon. It's just a cooler ship, right? It's just better. Now, like I said, my wife's done the muscle car. Obviously, she loves the Fast and Furious series and loves American muscle cars. So, you know, when you know, you got the GT, the Mustang that she built. You know, she, you know, we're not going to build the E-Type Jag or the 007 thing. I'm not a massive 007 fan. once again, it's like, would you build the Aston Martin, or would you build the DeLorean? Well, it's going to be a DeLorean every time for me, because I'm a massive geek and that's what I'm into. So I'm building the Ecto-1, I'm building that. But other things like saying, like the Bismarck, and they've got a lot of car ones out at the moment as well. The Cobra looks really nice, but once again, there's nothing really catching me there. And a lot of people say, you know, Knight Rider. I wasn't a big Knight Rider fan, so that doesn't really interest me. So I won't be building that. But the builds that I had seen on test, which over in France, which were the Alien from Alien, and obviously RoboCop from RoboCop, interest me hugely, because that's the sort of thing that I'm into. So, you know, I'm not the sort of person that will just go, oh, I'll build it just for the sake of building it, because I'm not going to do that just for the sake of building it. It's not the way I work. But yeah, so I have to have something there. Obviously, Ecto-1 is a very cool car, right? It's famous. Everyone likes Ghostbusters. So that's why I'm building that. Once again, the same with the Terminator. You know, I'm a big geek. T2 was the best Terminator film ever done, and it just interests me. R2-D2 was the same as well. Who would want a 1:2 scale of R2-D2? Not only just a statue of it, but one that actually moves, projects. You can use a camera as well. I mean, it just got cooler as you sort of discussed it. It was just like, I'm getting that. So, you know, what builds will make me sort of drop everything? Well, the first one was the Enterprise D. I would remortgage my house to get that, yeah? And it's the same if they brought out Johnny Five from Short Circuit. That's another one I would do, hands down, okay? It's just what I would do. Now, obviously, they're doing the Iron Man. The potential there, you know, to do things like, say, War Machine. If they did War Machine, if they brought out Iron Man and War Machine, I'd do War Machine. It's just a cooler thing, isn't it? Though, to be fair, I'll probably end up doing both of them. But War Machine's a better one, right? I mean, someone must agree with me, right? That it's just a better suit. But yeah, so that's sort of my flutter into sort of Partworks. Is, you know, is they're not all sunshine and roses. You do come up with problems. Like I said, we'll discuss the DeLorean at another time, because I've been doing these since 2009, and that was, well, it still is the worst build that I've done. But in saying that, you do occur a lot of these problems, you know, with the Terminator, the floppy arm, the finger joints. But after all the blood, sweat, tears, stressing, headaches that these things give you, when they're finished, you can admire them. You can step back and go, I built that. It took 2 years. I built this. This is the coolest thing ever. You know, you're turning it on and off. You got the doors up. You're having a look inside it. You're keeping the dust off it and stuff like that. So, you know, I am so proud that I've done the DeLorean. Even though it was the worst build, even though it was a headache to do, I still love it, regardless. And I think I love it more because of those things. But it is what it is. But yeah, I just want to go over things again here. So I am using Anchor. If you want to send a message, like a voice message is, and I can play it here on the show, then I would love to do that. If you'd want to appear on the show with me, send a message to me, either through Anchor or through my digital platforms. You know, you've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So if you want to join me on the show, let me know, and you can come on and we can discuss Partworks and how you got into it, and how and what one's your favourite build. So, you know, I've just said what one's your favourite build. At the moment, which one's my favourite build? It's a hard one. But I'd have to say the R2-D2, just because of how cool it looks. It's stood up at the test of time. The electrics and everything else like that work properly, like it's supposed to. And it still works today, which is we'll discuss on another show, which is better than anything else really that Partworks have done. But yeah, I would say the R2-D2 at the moment is my best build that I've done. The one I'm looking forward to the most is obviously the Enterprise D. You know, this is the sort of thing us Partwork people, especially someone who's into Star Trek like I am, has been waiting for forever. Let's just put it that way. I can't believe it's taken this long for them to do one, because I know that this was going to be, one, a no-brainer, and two, would make a company a stupid amount of money. But it's, like I said, it's taken this long. I'm just glad that we're finally having it. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up now. Thank you for listening, for me waddle on, as I do, and everything else. But yeah, thank you for listening, and obviously we'll see you soon on YouTube and here. So I am going to be doing more podcasts like this on everything. So just a normal discussion about things, and you know, maybe new toys that are coming out, TV shows and stuff like that, and films. But if you want to join me on any of them, let me know, and we can make that happen. But anyway, thank you for listening to me, and we'll see you at the next show.